Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Joshua Bridwell Show. This is the podcast where I talk about your personal, professional, and spiritual growth, and where we talk about your stories to help you go from stuck to growth. I am your host, Joshua Bridwell, and welcome to Season 2. Super excited that it is finally here. If you have been with me through Season 1, thank you so much for all of your support, and thank you for coming into Season 2 with me. If you are just now listening for the first time, welcome to the community. Like I said, this podcast is all about helping you grow personally, professionally, and spiritually. And I had a week-long break where I was looking at all the content that I pushed out before to make sure that I am producing content that is valuable for you, found out what it is that you interacted with to make sure that I am giving you what it is that you want to see. And I've also done some reflecting on my own. And one thing that I've been thinking a lot about is, what does it take to truly grow in life? Why is it that some people tend to grow faster than others and some slower? And this is whether it's a personal growth, professional growth, spiritual growth. There's one thing that I see holding a lot of people back. We've talked about humility before, but there's something else. And the reason I'm saying us is because this topic is something that I have experienced myself. I still do in some parts of life. And I'm talking about a victim mentality. Now, you may be listening to this episode and thinking to yourself, oh, well, I don't have a victim mentality in any area of my life. But I want to challenge that just a little bit, because I believe that everybody has a victim mentality somewhere in their life. You might know that victim mentalities are bad. You might be trying to overcome that yourself. I hope that you are, but I'm also hoping that this episode is going to provide you with some practical tools to help you identify victim mentality, where it is in your life, as well as give you practical steps to help you move beyond that. So, like I said, today we're going to be talking about victim mentality. This isn't going to be one of those feel-good episodes where I tell you that your life is great the way that it is. This episode is going to be all about truth. Truth that can set you free if you are willing to listen to it. So I want you to take this episode really seriously, and there is something that you need to know. Life is not fair. Bad things happen, people hurt us, circumstances can knock us down. But, this is a big but, what if I told you that staying stuck in those feelings, playing the victim, which is really what getting stuck in those feelings are, is the one thing that's standing between you and the life that you want for yourself? This is going to be a really tough topic. Like I said, everyone has a victim mentality somewhere in their life. It's going to be uncomfortable to think about, especially if this is something that is brand new to you, or if this is a journey that you've been on for a while. But if you're listening at this point in the episode, I know that you're willing to tackle this head on. So I'm excited to talk to you about this. Grab a coffee, get comfortable. If you're in the car, then turn the volume up just a little bit. Let's go ahead and dive in to how you can stop giving away your power and start taking back control of your life. So a victim mentality is a mindset where you believe that you're powerless to change your circumstances. It's where you feel like life is constantly happening to you and you're just along for the ride. Now, are there certain areas of our life that we can't control? Sure. But I am talking about when we believe that we are powerless to change our circumstances, when we actually do have the ability to control some of it. And some things that we might hear or say that really identify a victim mentality is, I can't get ahead because of my boss. I'll never have a good relationship because everyone always lets me down, or I've been hurt in the past, so everyone in the future is going to hurt me. I wasn't born with the right opportunities, so I'll never be successful. I'll always be the person that's behind. Let me pause for just a second and tell you that the very first company I ever created for myself was a company by the name of Coin Counselor, and I was a financial coach. When I would sit down and I would talk with people, I heard all sorts of excuses, you name it. And the thing is, I preached for a long time about it's not how much money you make, it's what you do with it. And I see that over and over and over again. There are people that make $40,000 that are in a better financial spot than people who make $100,000. How is this possible? Because they are intentional about what it is that they do with their money. And they don't let what's happened to them in the past keep them there. They don't inflate their lifestyle to compensate for something, because you need to know that these people, that they've been hurt, they've lost money before, but feeling hurt, feeling disappointed, feeling frustrated in life is something that is normal. Those emotions, hear me out, are valid emotions. It's okay to feel frustrated, hurt, disappointed. You are not an outcast because you're experiencing some of that in some parts of life. But a victim mentality is something that goes beyond those things. It's when you live with those each and every day, when you let those emotions take over your life, when you let them dictate the decisions that you make for yourself, and when you let those define who you are. I'm not saying this to make you feel bad. I'm not saying this to judge you. I've been there too. It's important to know that everyone has been there too. Let me share something kind of personal with you. A few years ago, I was stuck in a job that I hated. I even cried on the floor of this job that I had. I felt really undervalued. I felt underpaid. Some of you listening or watching are saying, yep, me too, and overworked. And instead of me taking action in order to improve my life, I spent months blaming my boss, blaming my circumstances, my coworkers, and even the company as a whole that I worked for. And I tell myself, if they would just fix this one thing, then all of my problems would go away. And if they would just fix this, I'd finally be happy. But here's what I eventually came to realize: they weren't going to fix it. They didn't have to, because it wasn't their life. It was my life. And as long as I kept blaming them, I stayed stuck. This podcast is really big on helping you move beyond stuck to get to growth. And as long as you keep blaming other people, you are going to feel stuck. Victim mentality is like giving away the keys to your life. And you're saying to somebody else, here you go, take the keys. You drive my life. But let me ask, do you really want to give that power to anybody else? Because that power to drive your life belongs to you. Don't give away your keys. But unfortunately, a lot of people fall into this trap. Why does it feel so much easier to blame other people or our circumstances than to take responsibility for our actions? We talked a lot about accountability in season 1 of this podcast. So if you haven't listened to any of the episodes that talk about accountability, go listen to some episodes. We talk about it in almost every single episode. But here is a really hard pill to swallow. And it makes a lot of sense. Victim mentality feels good in the moment. We know it's wrong. but it feels good in the moment. It takes all of the pressure off of ourselves. If it's someone else's fault, then you don't have to do anything about it because it's up to them to fix it. That's not true. If you blame somebody else, you take the pressure off of yourself, and that feels good. But you're waiting on somebody else to fix your circumstances in your life. It's not going to work. Just point blank, it is not going to work. You don't have to face your fears, step outside your comfort zone, or even risk failing. But that comfort is not real. It's an illusion. It's like staying in a bad relationship because, hey, I know it's not good for me, but at least it is something that I'm familiar with. I know how this works. Deep down, you know that it's not good for you. You know that it's not going to help you to grow, but the thought of leaving is way too scary. So you choose to stay. Another reason that we get stuck in this victim mentality is because we have been taught that. Maybe you grew up in an environment where people were constantly blamed others for their problems. It could even be that you faced real hardships. That could be abuse, that could be trauma, that could be discrimination of any kind, and that could make you feel like the world is against you. We see some of that on social media, and those things, they do happen. But those things can create really deep patterns of thinking, and the deeper those thoughts go, the harder they are to break. I want you to think about this for a second. What has victim mentality cost you so far? Think about that. What has it cost you so far? Because society doesn't exactly discourage victim mentality. We already talked about social media, and that thrives on outrage and blame because it gets views. It's entertaining. So people are going to produce more of that content because it gets more views. It's entertaining. There aren't a lot of social media pieces of entertainment that are genuinely built to help you grow. And I'm really hoping that this show helps to break that cycle in some way, shape, or form. But like I said, society doesn't discourage victim mentality. Social media thrives on that. And people post about what's wrong in their lives, and they get likes, comments, they even get shares, they get validation that, yes, that you didn't do anything wrong. Somebody else did that to you, so that other person is wrong. It validates victim mentalities. But again, here's a question. Is that validation actually helping you? Is it really helping you to move your life forward, or is it just keeping you stuck where you are? Again, what has victim mentality cost you so far? How many opportunities have you missed because you've had a victim mentality, because you are waiting on somebody else to fix your life? How many relationships have really struggled because you were too focused on what the other person did wrong? You are so focused on waiting on the other person to change or the other person to apologize that you let your relationships suffer. That is not a good place to be. Victim mentality is a really sneaky thing. Again, if it wasn't sneaky, then we could just snap our fingers and boom, it's gone. But it doesn't just show up in one area of your life. We all experience it in some area of our life. It creeps into everything, and we have to be really careful about that. Because when you live in victim mentality personally, your confidence takes a hit. I want you to go and watch the episode where we talked about building unshakable self-confidence. You stop believing in your ability to create any kind of change. You feel like you have given your power away, and that takes away your self-confidence, and ultimately the belief that you have becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You think it's going to happen, so you cause it to happen. When we're thinking professionally, victim mentality can really make you disengaged and negative at work. If you're constantly blaming your boss, your team, the system, the organization, the customers, you're not stepping up. You are not taking accountability. And let's be real, nobody wants to promote a person to a position of leadership. Yes, there's positional leadership, but there's also lifestyle leadership, servant leadership. We can go into all of that, but nobody wants to promote a person into any kind of leadership position that is constantly negative, that is constantly complaining, that is constantly blaming others. They want to see somebody take accountability for their actions. We've already discussed a little bit how it can affect you relationally. In relationships, victim mentality can make you feel really misunderstood and unsupported across the board. One thing that we have to be careful of is knowing that victim mentalities often push people away. When you're always playing the victim, you might even know somebody in your life that plays the victim all the time. They could do no wrong. It's always somebody else's fault. It's probably hard to connect with those people. And if you are the person that is always blaming somebody else, always blaming the circumstances, then it's going to be really hard for people to connect with you too. You have to know that. And spiritually, I want to slow down and talk about the spiritual side for just a second. It's not something that I lean into full force in any episode thus far, but it's season 2, so we're going a little bit deeper. But I want you to know that victim mentality blocks gratitude from showing up in your life, and it blocks faith. Because we can often blame God. God, you didn't give me X, Y, and Z, so I can't do what I needed to do. God, it didn't happen on my time. It's very easy to blame God and play the victim mentality that way. We have to be able to slow down and express gratitude to God for the season that we're in, because when you focus on what's wrong, you miss the blessings that are in front of you. You have blessings in front of you, and I actually had somebody comment on a video from season 1 and say something along the lines of, why doesn't God ever answer my prayers? And I said, sometimes. My response, I said, sometimes the best answer to a prayer is no. But we cannot let God saying no to our request keep us from growing into who we need to be. Bottom line, when you have a victim mentality, it costs you something. It's not going to cost you money in every case. Sometimes it could be your time, energy, relationships, maybe a promotion at work. It will bleed into your future if you don't get a hold on your victim mentality. So how can you get a hold on your victim mentality? Great question. I am glad you asked, because we've talked enough about victim mentality as a problem. Let's get into the solution. I want to help you break free from that so that you can actually take back control of your life. The first thing that you need to do, and I encourage you to write this down. If you are intentional about breaking free from this, grab a pen, grab paper, write it down. If you're on the road, come back to it later, write these down. And in just a little bit, I'm also going to issue you a challenge. The first thing that you have to do is you have to recognize your victim mentality. The first step is being aware. You can't fix what it is that you don't face. If you just ignore it, sweep it under the rug, it's going to find its way back out from underneath that rug at the most inconvenient time. So I want you to ask yourself these 2 questions. Where am I blaming others for my circumstances? And number two, what am I doing what am I avoiding, what am I avoiding by staying stuck in this mindset? What is it costing me? And I need you to be brutally honest. Again, this is not a feel-good episode. This is getting into the truth to help you actually transform your life. This isn't about shaming, judging. It's about growth, taking the first step toward taking your life back and gaining freedom. The second thing that I need you to do is take responsibility. Now you recognize it in your life. Now you have to take responsibility for it. Here's where it gets real. You have to stop blaming somebody else to fix your life. You can't wait on somebody else to fix your life. You have to take responsibility for your choices, your actions, and the outcome. Yes, you're free to make whatever choices you want, but you're not free from the circumstances of those choices. You have to take responsibility for the outcome of your actions and your choices. I don't mean that you need to blame yourself for things that weren't your fault. It means saying, I can't change what happened, but I can choose how I respond to what happened. Write that down. I can't change what happened, but I can choose how I respond to what happened. And then you have to reframe the story. I need you to start looking at challenges as opportunities. We don't learn anything from the successes. We learn practically nothing, if anything, from our successes. We learn from our challenges. So we need to start looking at challenges as opportunities for growth. Instead of asking yourself, why is this happening to me? Ask yourself, what can I learn from what's happening to me? Reframing your story is not going to come naturally at first. It's probably not a natural thing for you. So it takes practice, but it is going to be one of the most powerful tools that you have to take your life back, to gain confidence, to focus on relationships in order to grow into the person that you are meant to be. You need to be able to reframe your story. The fourth thing is that you have to take action. We talked about the importance of choices, actions, and outcomes. You have to take action because victim mentality is something that really thrives in action. The longer you wait, the more stuck you feel, because the deeper your victim mentality gets. We already talked about the deeper it is, the harder it is to come back from that. You have to break the cycle, but it takes one action after another. Just take one small step every single day. It doesn't have to be a sprint. It shouldn't be a sprint. It should be a marathon. Take one small step a day. Just one step. And then you need to practice gratitude. It doesn't come naturally to some people. Gratitude didn't come naturally to me. It's a muscle that I had to work, and I'm still working on each and every day. I am grateful for all of you being here. You have to practice gratitude. I want you to start each day by expressing 3 things that you're grateful for. Gratitude is something that's going to shift your focus, and it might take you slowing down, you thinking really hard, trying to find 3 things that you're thankful for. But it is going to shift your attention from what's wrong in your life to what's right in your life. What you can't control to what you can control. I want to share, but before I wrap up this episode, I want to share 2 very brief stories that really inspire me. One of them is the story of Oprah, because she did not have the easiest upbringing in life, but instead of staying stuck in the pain of her past, she chose to use that as fuel for her purpose. She once said, and I love this quote, "Turn your wounds into wisdom." In other words, reframe your mind from challenges as something to hold you back, as challenges are opportunities to grow. Not why is this happening to me, but what am I supposed to learn from what is happening to me? And the second one is Viktor Frankl. I'm not sure if any of you have heard of Viktor Frankl, but he was a Holocaust survivor. And I want you to picture the Holocaust for those that have learned about it. He was a Holocaust survivor. They were far and few between, but he wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. Even in the absolute darkest circumstances of the Holocaust, I mean, it was terrible. It was brutal. He found that while he couldn't control what was happening to him, he could control his attitude. And if you're somebody that wants to really be intentional about breaking free from victim mentality, wanting to learn more about gratitude, I highly encourage you to check out Man's Search for Meaning. I will see if I can link one down in the show description for you. So go ahead, you can head down there, you can check it out, and you can purchase yourself a copy from there. If these two people can rise above every outcome that caused them to struggle, then you can too. Somebody going through the Holocaust and survived had to endure much more than you just having a bad boss. I want you to. I told you I had a challenge for you. So here's my challenge. I want you to take one step, just one step today, to break free from a victim mentality, and that might mean that you just go to the store, you buy a journal, you open up the notes on your phone, start journaling about where you've been stuck. Or maybe it's about making a decision that you've been avoiding. You've thought about going to open up an investment account, but you're afraid that the stock market's going to be too all over the place for you. Go ahead, talk with a professional, open up an account, ride the roller coaster. Whatever it is that you are wanting to do, take that step. Do it today. And I also want to hear your story. Was there a time in your life when you had a victim mentality in a certain area and you did break free from that? I want to hear about all of this in the comments. And I want you to tag me on social media with hashtag #BreakFreeWithJoshua. I want to celebrate your wins because I want to see you win. I want to be a cheerleader for you. I would not be doing this show at all if I didn't care about you and your growth. And if this episode is an episode that resonated with you, then I want you to share it with somebody that you think needs to hear it or could benefit from it. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review for this podcast, and join me next week because we are going to continue growing every Monday at 7 o'clock. I'm also going to be posting some content leading up to the episodes on social media. So go follow me across a variety of different platforms. I'm super excited to continue season 2 with you. And we've got some big things in the work. I'm going to be releasing my website very soon. I can't wait to make that public for all of you. It is almost done. Just putting a couple of final finishing touches on it. And I need you to remember this, okay? I want you to remember, life is not about what happens to you. It's about what you do with it. Like I said at the beginning of the episode, I was a financial coach. It's not how much money you make, it's what you do with it. Life isn't about what happens to you. It's about what you do with it. It's about how you respond to what happens to you in life. You are the one that has the power to change your life and change your story. Don't hand your keys to anybody else. They belong to you. Drive the vehicle of your life. This has been another episode of the Joshua Bridwell Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Tune in next time. Let's grow.